Now let's talk about the Clan of Saar, the only faction with moving space docks and no interest in protecting their home system. Hey everyone, my name is Esa and welcome to my gaming cave. When you play as the Clan of Saar, then I think you have three primary abilities. The first one is their moving space docks. The second one is one of their faction technologies, but not the other one. And lastly, you can choose to be completely careless about protecting your home system. Besides these primary abilities, I will also go through the remaining things that this awesome faction can. Then I will demonstrate how the first round can be played. And lastly, I will recommend some technologies you can research to make this strong faction even stronger. So let's get started. Let's start with the last one, about being careless about our home system. And that's because the Clan of Saar is nomadic of nature. And the first faction ability is called nomadic. And what it simply says is that we don't need to control the planets in our home system to be able to score public objectives. And the Clan of Saar is the only faction that is allowed to do that. So this is pretty huge. Because where other factions need to lock a lot of resources and units in their home system, then the Clan of Saar can use their moving space docks and use the resources elsewhere out on the game board. And that gives them a lot of flexibility. As we move out of our home system and start gaining control of more planets, then our second faction ability called Scavenge kicks in. And with that we gain one trade good every time we gain control of a new planet. And this is an extremely helpful ability to have, because those extra trade goods truly boosts our economy, so that we can produce more units and or research technology. But of course, throughout the game, where fewer and fewer planets will swap hands, then this ability becomes less useful. But that economic boost in the beginning of the game also makes the Clan of Saar a strong faction. When we play as the Clan of Saar, we need to expect that the other players will watch our every single move we do with our space docks, because no one wants them near their territory. But we have one disadvantage with them, and that is that they exist up in the space area where the other players are down on a planet. And that means that if another player flies into the same system as our space dock and they win the space combat, then our space dock is immediately destroyed. And we don't want that to happen, because we still need the construction strategy card to get them out there. So if that happens, then it will probably delay our evil plans. Since our space docks exist up in the space area, then its production capacity is not related to a resource value from any planets. Instead, it's just set to 5. But we can also go for our other faction technology, which is a unit upgrade of our space docks. Then the production capacity is increased from 5 to 7. Its movement goes from 1 to 2, and the space dock can hold 5 units instead of 4. But in reality, I wouldn't go for this unit upgrade, simply because it requires way too many technologies to get. So instead, if we want to get one of those Saar balls rolling, and we want that, then I would move 2 space docks into the same system. Then we have a production capacity of 10, which is plenty to get one of those Saar balls up and going. So instead of using a lot of resources on researching technology, then I would instead use those resources to produce more units. Now let's talk about our last unit, which is the Mechs. And their special ability is that they can be deployed by using the trade good we would otherwise earn from our Scavenge faction ability. And this is pretty powerful, because we get to deploy the Mech out on the front line and reinforce our position there. And if we are lucky, we will also have an untaken hazardous planet nearby that we can use the Mech to explore with, and hopefully also get some goodies by doing so. So all in all, I think this is a powerful ability to have, and I would already use this a few times in the beginning of the game, and of course also try to use it to get the remaining Mechs out later on. Our agent gives one of our ships the same movement value as the ship with the highest one out on the game board. And since we start with a cruiser, then our space dock can move 2 systems right from the beginning of the game. And this gives us a lot of flexibility. So our agent works like a watered down version of the gravity drive technology, but we can still research gravity drive and then we can add that extra movement on top of our agent. And then all of a sudden, our space docks can move up to 3 systems, which is pretty insane. So when I play as Clan of Saar, I mostly use the agent for myself, but it is also an easy sell to other players if you choose to do so. But first, let's have a look at our starting units. So we start with 2 carriers, 4 infantry, 1 cruiser, 2 fighters, and a floating factory. And with these units, we can easily gain control of up to 4 planets in 3 systems. And this is truly enough to get a good start. But if we add our scavenge faction ability, where we gain 1 trade good for each planet that we take, then we are really set up for a strong start here. We also start with a single technology, and it's called anti-Mars deflectors. With this technology, we are allowed to fly into asteroid fields, and there's a really good synergy with being able to do that and the other faction technology that I just teased. But anti-Mars deflectors also have another ability that I think is easy to forget, and that is whenever another player wants to shoot their PDSs at our ships, then they get -1 to each die roll, and that makes it a little harder to hit us. But now it's time to have a look at how the first round can be played. And I think the trade strategy card is the strongest pick for the Clan of Saar. But it is fairly straightforward to play the first round with the trade strategy card, so I won't demonstrate that. Instead, I'll demonstrate the warfare card. But there is one tip I want to give you, and that is to play the trade strategy card before you move your space dock out. Because in this way, you will both have the trade goods from the scavenge faction ability, but also the trade goods from the trade strategy card. And in this way, you will have even more resources to produce units for when you reach the production step after moving the space dock. Alright, let's have a look at how the first round can be played with the warfare strategy card. And I also think this is a pretty strong pick, simply because you can easily fill out your entire slice, get ready to grab Megator Rex as the first one in round 2, and you can also get a second space dock out when the construction player plays his strategy card. So in this way, we have pretty much unlocked our race already in round 1. So let's have a look at how that can be done. So first we will activate out on Lysis and Wellnor here, and then we will move our space dock out there with 2 infantry and our cruiser. And let's have a look at Lysis first. A relic fragment, alright, and we will also gain a trade good. And then let's have a look at Wellnor here. You may gain 1 commodity, or you may spend 1 trade good or 1 commodity to place 1 mech from your reinforcements on this planet. So this is actually pretty much a combination of our scavenge and our scavenger here. So we can spend this trade good that we didn't spend before, then we will earn a trade good, but we can put that back and place a mech. So we will do that, and also a mech from the other one. And now we reach the production step, and we have 3 more resources to produce units for. So we want to do that, and I choose to produce 1 destroyer, 2 infantry, and 2 fighters. Now it gets to be the other player's turn, and the construction player decides to play his strategy card early on, as they usually do. And I'll put the token in the back here, because I want to put it in the same system as we have already activated, so we don't need to place another token there. So now we got our second space dock out, and when it gets to be our turn, we will activate out here on perimeter, move out there with a carrier, an infantry, and a fighter. And let's have a look. We get another relic fragment, and then we will earn 1 more trade good. And now everybody else takes their turn, and we can now activate out on Evera here, and we will move our carrier, our last infantry, and fighter out there. And let's have a look at what we get. Freelancers. You may produce 1 unit in the system, you may spend influence, and we could do that, but I'll save the trade good for later. And when it gets to be our turn again, we play the warfare card, so we can remove this token out here. We'll put it back in our tactical pool, and we could also redistribute 1 of these tokens from our fleet supply to the tactical pool or strategy pool, but I'll just leave it as it is. And then as our very final action, we can activate out on Archon Vale here, move both of our space docks and the fighters, and we definitely want a mech out there as well, but we could also take the second one and 2 more infantry. And let's have a look at Archon Vale and see what we get. Oh, an attachment, which is pretty nice. and then we will earn one more trade good here. But nah, let's put it back and deploy yet another mech. And now we also have 2 more resources we can produce units for, so we might as well produce 2 more infantry and 2 fighters. And now we for sure have enough units to hold Megator Rex in round 2 if we are lucky enough to get it as the first one. If you don't already own the game and the Prophecy of Kings expansion, then you can buy one or both of them through the affiliate links in the video description below. I will get a small commission for it and you will support the channel. So thank you if you do. Now let's talk about our other faction technology called Chaos Mapping. It is somewhat similar to the Sling Relay technology, but with Sling Relay we can only produce 1 ship in every game round. But with Chaos Mapping we can produce 1 ship every time it is our turn. And on top of that, then we can lock asteroid fields from other players. So if we park a ship in an asteroid field, and that could be one of our space docks, then we can produce units in the asteroid field and the other players cannot activate it. So now we can build up large fleets in asteroid fields and the other players can do absolutely nothing about it. We unlock our commander by having all 3 space docks out on the game board. And when we have that, then we can place the produced infantry and fighters at any of our space docks that are not blockaded by other players. And yes, this is a fine ability, but it's not something I would rush to get. I would still try to get the second space dock out as soon as possible, but I think the third one can wait a little bit, and then we can eventually get it out and use this ability a little later in the game. Our hero is one of the fun ones, because with him we can weaken the defenses on a heavily defended planet. And he is yet another reason to why our opponents don't want our space docks near them. If we go back to the example where we have an asteroid field adjacent to Megator Rex and also 3 opponents surrounding us. Now we can simply target what planet we want to try and take. Megator Rex could be an obvious choice, but there could also be some public objectives that require us to control planets with attachments or having a certain trait, making some of the other planets interesting as well. But we can have used the asteroid field as a safe haven for our space dock, build up a large fleet, then target one of the planets, use the hero to weaken the defenses, and then on our next turn we can move in the big fleet and hopefully take the planet away from our opponent. So in my opinion, the hero is both powerful and versatile in its use. Now let's talk about our flagship. It only has 1 special ability, and that is Anti-Fighter Barrage. But it's a strong one, because it rolls 4 dice and hits on a 6. So statistically, you should produce 2 hits every time. And speaking of combat, in space combat it rolls 2 dice and hits on a 5, which is the strongest in the game. Then it has capacity 3, which is pretty standard, and the same goes for its movement 1. But of course, that can be improved with our agent and or gravity drive. So all in all, a very powerful flagship, and I would definitely produce it during a game. Now let's talk about technology. We start with anti-mass deflectors, which makes perfectly sense, because with that we can fly into asteroid fields, and it also works as a prerequisite for our chaos mapping faction technology. And that is the first one I will try and get. Then I will go for gravity drive, possibly dark energy tap, if I have 3 or more frontier tokens I can explore, and then ultimately go for lightwave deflectors so that we have maximum flexibility when it comes to moving around the galaxy. All in all, I don't think Clan of Saar need that many technologies. I would prioritize to produce more units over researching technology with this faction, but of course a few unit upgrades can also be helpful. It could be Carrier 2, so we can hold even more ground forces and fighters in our Saar balls. And Carrier 2 requires 2 blue technologies that we will already get, so we have easy access to that one. And speaking of fighters, we could also consider going for Fighter 2 to make them a little bit stronger. It just requires a green technology, and that could for instance be Neural Motivator, so we get an extra action card in every status phase. And I think that is pretty much it. After making this guide, I cannot wait to play the Clan of Saar again. Getting those Saar balls up and running is so much fun. Please consider supporting the channel by becoming a Patreon member. I put a link to that in the description below. Or you can use the affiliate links to buy your favorite board games. It won't cost you anything extra, but you will support the channel as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.